Hi guys. Um, on our journey through California on Highway 1, we stopped here in the best hope that we're going to find something to eat and to drink. And then we realized that we're actually in the front of Henry Miller house. Can you imagine that? In the middle of a forest, we're in the front of Henry Miller house. So let's take a look. Okay, we are inside right now. There you can see the pictures of Henry Miller. And then some of the books on the top. And then this side here. Everything is in the Henry Miller sign, everything. I can't believe it. And I have just stopped to take something for it. California is the best. You never know what you're gonna find or what you're gonna see. And now we're going to talk with Magnus, the gentleman who is working here and who is taking care about this house. So he's going to tell us something more about Henry Miller and about this house. Hi, Mr. Magnus.
Hi.
Thank you for your time.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, so can you tell us something more about Henry Miller, about this house, about
Well,
all other stuff?
this house is belonged to Henry Miller's best friend, Emil White. And I don't know if Henry Miller, the American author and artist, was born in Brooklyn, far from here on the other side of the country. He spent the 1930s in Paris. The Second World War started, and as that happened, he left Paris and went down to Greece and lived in Greece with his best friend, or one of his friends, Lawrence Durrell, the English author. He was on Corfu. And then the war expanded, and he came back to the United States in the early 40s, traveled around and found this place here on the West Coast. He found paradise, he called it. It's in America. It's called Big Sur. And that's where he settled. And then he wrote a letter to his friend Emil White and said, "Come to Big Sur. It's the fantastic place." Emil White packed his bags and came and lived here with Henry throughout the time that he was here. And it's in his house that we are now standing. And it's in this house, a year after Henry died, that Emil White opened up his own home to be a memorial to himself and to Henry. So that's the house that we're in. And that's a very short story about why we're here.
Okay, nice and beautiful story about Henry Miller. So can you tell me from this point, what do you think and what people from America who know anything about Henry Miller, actually what they think about him and about his works, about his books, about his reflection?
Yeah. I think a lot of people think many different things about Henry, but Henry is famous for his literary output, right? I mean, he became a literary sensation in 1934 in Paris, but he also became infamous and famous because he wrote about sex very early on in the 30s, and his books were banned. So here in Big Sur, for instance,
especially when he was in Paris.
Well, I mean,
he did a lot of there.
Yeah. The books were not published in French, published in English only, and then banned in the United States, banned all over. So people in Big Sur in 1944, when he came, he was famous, and he was famous again for two reasons. One is that he was a literary of interest because of his literary work, but also of interest and infamy because of his scandalous aspect. So people in Big Sur, I'm sure people were half and half. Half the people here thought it was terrible that this bad person comes to Big Sur, and the other half thought it was cool and welcomed him. And those would be the people that saw the other part of what Henry Miller did, which was to inspire people to be in the realm of arts, in the realm of the humanities, literature, art, poetry, film, dance, all of those things that have to do with art and the arts in general, was something that Henry Miller was a huge proponent for, and a wonderful writer about. So that's probably the main message that all of his work is trying to send, is to enjoy life to the fullest through the arts, the humanities. Yeah.
And I know that he was before them, but is there any connection between Henry Miller and Beat movement?
Absolutely. I mean, if Jack Kerouac, for instance, talks several times about how Henry Miller was a huge inspiration for him. So he read Henry and was inspired by Henry's work, and they actually met and talked. I mean, they actually never meet, but they talked, because Henry wrote a foreword to The Subterraneans, for instance, one of his books. It is a foreword by Henry Miller. So they very much knew of one another. Unfortunately, at least the folklore has it that Kerouac always got too drunk every time he tried to meet with Henry. It was overwhelming for him, I guess. Yeah. But I mean, so definitely he was an inspiration for them. And it's pretty clear to see, if you look at the writing, Henry wrote from a very much of a self-exploratory place, to try to find himself in a way to his writing, rather than conceiving of a story with a message in some fashion like someone like Don Steinbeck would do, who is another neighbor here. Two different writers completely in that way.
Okay, and for the end, do you have any message about Henry Miller, about our people?
Yeah, you mean for what was the question?
Do you have any message for our people? Do you have any recommendation?
Of in terms of books?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I often recommend what Henry Miller thought of as his best book, which is the book that he writes about his time in Greece, which is called Colossus of Marousi. So that's what Henry Miller thought was his best book.
Okay.
The thing about that book, though, is it does not include any of the sex that he's famous or he's infamous for, which
people usually expect.
Yeah, which people then somehow would expect from him. But in many of his book, of course, that it's not included. It's the Tropic of Capricorn, Tropic of Cancer, and the Rosy Crucifixion, Sexus, Nexus, and Plexus. Those 5 books where you find this kind of boisterous language around sex included. Yeah.
Okay, folks, I guess this was enough. You can hear not a lot, but many things about Henry Miller. And on the end, you have a recommendation for his famous book. So that's it for now, guys. Mr. Magnus,
All right.
thank you for your time.
Thanks.
It was a pleasure.
Right.
Okay.